And a detective who found the bodies of Lori Vallow Daybell's children is back on the stand today in her murder trial. The Idaho mom is accused of killing her kids in a doomsday plot. Daybell had asked to be excused from the courtroom amid the graphic testimony, but that request was denied. Mola Lengi is in Boise, Idaho with the latest.
The so-called doomsday mom, Lori Vallow Daybell, back in court after a tense day of testimony. So gruesome, she asked if she could leave.
My client wishes to waive her presence at the testimony for the remainder of the day. It was emotional this morning.
The judge denying her request.
The court does have the authority to order the appearance of the defendant in facing trial and proceedings.
Vallow Daybell forced to listen to lead detective Ray Hermosillo describe in painstaking detail how her two children, who she's accused of murdering, were found buried in shallow graves in her husband Chad Daybell's backyard in June of 2020.
Were you physically aiding in the excavation?
Not then, I was not, no.
Were you watching the evidence, the FBI team do that?
Yes.
Hermosillo testifying these are the last images that show proof of life for 16-year-old Tylee and 7-year-old JJ. This photo of Tylee in Yellowstone Park on September 8, 2019, and this photo of JJ taken on September 22nd. The detective testifying that authorities grew increasingly suspicious of the couple in November of 2019 when they caught Chad in a lie during a welfare check for JJ.
I asked him how he knew Lori Vallow, and he stated that he hardly knew her, that he had only met her a couple of times. We knew that Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell had been married 2 weeks prior to my contact with him.
The next day, investigators say they obtained a search warrant for Vallow Daybell's apartment and found evidence that it was lived in, but no sign of her.
Everything that looked like someone had lived there, except for there were no clothes on the hangers. There were just empty hangers in all the closets.
They say they also found guns, ammunition, and hazmat-style suits. Police say the couple fled to Hawaii, where they were tracked down in January of 2020. East Idaho News capturing the moment police served Vallow Daybell with a court order to return the children to Idaho.
Where are your kids?
And Lori Vallow Daybell has pleaded not guilty to all the charges. If convicted, she faces life in prison without parole. Our thanks to Mola Lengi. And I want to bring in ABC News contributor, host of the Law and Crime Network, Brian Buckmeyer, for more on this. Brian, what did you think of Lori's request to be excused from the courtroom and the judge's response to that?
It made sense. What I initially thought is maybe her attorneys have never shown her these photos before this trial. She did have a competency issue before this, so maybe going into the deep, dark recesses of this trial was not something that she had seen before. I thought she should be able to waive it like she can waive any other right, but the judge forcing her to stay there seemed more like a punishment pre-conviction to me.
Now, one of the jurors cried when looking at these photos of how the children's bodies were found. As an attorney, what do you think, what do you make of a reaction like that?
I think it's normal. Not everyone in the profession looks at dead bodies like many defense attorneys do, but these images, I think, go beyond what a lot of people are used to. I think you have to accept that people are going to feel that way and then try your best as a defense attorney to separate the gruesomeness of the crime from the question of who did it.
Now, the detective who took the stand yesterday revealed this long list of items that they found in Lori's garage. Guns, ammunition, silencers, pickaxes. But he said he didn't think they were Lori's. So what do you think that testimony does for their case?
So I think that helps the defense in terms of separating the issue of who done it. That this may not be actually Lori's garage, but it might be more associated with Chad. And if it's Chad's garage, Chad's tools, Chad's property where these bodies are found, then how can you connect Lori to this all? Because at the end of the day, this is a conspiracy case and an aiding and abetting of murder in the first degree. So you're trying to separate Lori from the rest of the co-conspirators.
How much do you think we're going to see the defense try to get Lori acquitted here by blaming Chad?
I think that's the entire case. You can say that, well, maybe there was not an agreement. You can say maybe she didn't encourage or push for this to happen, that it was Chad's belief that Chad kind of pulled her into this world, that Lori was one person before Chad and then another after. And I think pointing the finger at Chad, as well as Alex Cox, her now deceased brother, is the entire case for her.
Now, the same detective is going to be cross-examined by the defense today. What are you watching for there?
I'm looking for how you separate these two, how the investigation through this officer is suggesting that it's Chad, Chad, Chad. Where was this found? What did Chad say? What was his reaction? One very telling thing that I saw in this testimony was that when they discovered JJ's remains, supposedly Chad Daybell's in the back of the car on the phone looking back at the very area that that body was found. That could be consciousness of guilt to Chad, but maybe they can try to separate it and say, well, Lori wasn't looking at any area where a body was found. How are you saying that she knew anything about this?
Where does this case go from here, particularly with all the different avenues that are involved here?
So I think we're going to start off by how the bodies were found. Then the next step would be the science behind it, the forensics behind how gruesome these murders were. Then the prosecution has to start connecting this all between, here are the agreements between Lori and Chad. Here are the conversations between Alex, Chad, and Lori, and how this conspiracy and how this aiding and abetting is more than just a very gruesome murder of 2 children happened.
Brian Buckmeyer, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.